Hello and welcome back to All the Gear Some Idea. Now, this is my K100 BMW and I bought it as a non-runner. If you've already watched previous videos, I'm repeating myself. Basically, it was a fuse. One of these here, second one up, 7.5 amp fuse, corroded. So now the fuel pump works and it ran, but we had some problems with the fuel lines as they're pretty old and it needs a bit of a revamp. So that is obviously the plan with the bike, is to sort of go to town on it, but we are starting off with the basics. So the fuel tank is off, even though the last video it was left on. It's got a pinhole in the tank, unfortunately, so we need to get it repaired or replaced. So that is now currently next to me on its side, so the fuel doesn't leak out of it. I need to take the fuel out and deal with that myself. But for what I'm doing now, I don't actually need the fuel tank. If anything, better off than it is on, because throughout the next load of videos that we're going to be doing, we're not going to need it to start. We know it runs. It's a bit smoky. I'm going to look into it. They are smoky from startup. It may mean that I need to do the valve stem oil seals, or it just needs an oil change because the oil's really old and thin. A number of things. The bike will be going back together, taken apart, back together. So I'm not too worried about that at the moment. If I need to rebuild it, I've looked at the cost of pistons and piston rings and all that stuff. And to be fair, it's not expensive. So if I need to do that, that's fine. It's basically a car engine, which if you've watched the previous video, I'm amazed about. So yeah, today we're going to be doing a compression test on my Z100, which I'm hoping to make into a cafe racer. I've got ideas floating in my head and I don't know what I'm doing. So we're just going to see where the engine's at, compression wise, as to what we do. So I've got my compression tester, the kit down there. No idea how we're going to fit it yet, what we can do with it, how deep the holes are. So yeah, join me as we take it apart to do a compression test. The battery is on charge, so it will have a fair test when trying it rather than the battery going flat. So I'm going to take off the trim, take the spark plugs and everything out, and we will do a compression test. So for those of you that have already watched the previous videos, you'll know I've bought this stand you can just about see. I am sat on my Bike Tech stool, and it's pretty good. You know, I'm sat down here, and the engine's right in front of me. I wanted a table. I mean, that would be the end goal, really, is to get a table for the bike to go onto, so you can stand up around it. However, this is a lot cheaper, a lot smaller, a lot easier. So here we are. So we'll whip this cover off. This lovely cover. I thought that was plastic. That's actually metal. With part number and a lovely little badge there. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Right, let me get some gloves on. And we'll grab some pliers and get them out. Okay, so someone's already written on them. Which is pretty handy. So they're out. So let's get these spark plugs out. It's not the end of the world. NGK D7EA. So if you're needing to know what spark plugs they fit for the 8 valves, there you go. You've got your information now. How lucky are you? Okay, so turn the ignition on. I'll just turn it over. Lovely. No fuel coming out, which is brilliant because there's no fuel rail connected. Don't think I'm going to be able to use anything from this kit. So it won't screw in. Don't want to risk screwing that in when I've got this instead. Okay, so spark plugs are out. I've done a compression test already. I did it with the throttle closed, and I forgot to do the throttle open. So it's a bit of a pain to hold it and hold the throttle and everything. But if I get in there, we're at about 160-ish on number one, just under 212, sorry, just about 10, is that bar? Don't know what it is. Yeah, 150, around 160-ish on one. Let's try again. Wide open throttle, hold the button. Oh, about the same. Gee. Let's go again. A little bit lower, but still, I think it's going to be all right. Last one. And yeah, it's about the same again. So they're all fairly even at about 160, 155, 160 on the compression test. I didn't actually get the proper specs. What I'm going to do is pause this video, grab a drink, take my gloves off and find out what the specs are. I'll be back before you know it. Okay, so thank you to the illustrator, who is a guy from, I believe, New York. I've watched loads of his videos about his K100, and I think it was like 3, 4, 5 years ago he did these videos. But he did a compression test on his, and he's got a Haynes manual, which I'm going to buy, even though I'm not a massive fan of them, but it will help me with figures and stuff like this. Now, the good spec is like 145 PSI, and anything over that is obviously a bonus. His was about 165. I think his cylinder 4 was about 150, but the battery died. So he's riding his bike, and it's really good. So the fact that mine are around 165, 160, 165, in that ballpark figure, I am over the moon with this bike. It's got good numbers. So it does smoke when it starts, but the fact that we've not got low compression or anything would indicate, and there's no, when I'm turning it over, there's no oil and stuff coming out of it. So it's probably going to be the valve stem seals, which is fine. I think I can look into it. It may just be that the bike everything needs cleaning and sorting out, because think we're old spark plugs, old oil, old air filter. Like, there's loads of stuff that we can do to the bike to try and eradicate that problem. But started it earlier, and it was nowhere near as smoky as it was when we first started it. So I think it just needs to get hot. However, it's really noisy. So I will probably wait until I've got a day where I'm home in the middle of the day and try and just keep running. And the fact the fuel tank now has got a leak, I need to temporarily fix that before I get it fixed or buy a new fuel tank to be able to run it up. But we have got good compression on this end. Okay, so that was the compression test. Quite simple, quite easy. And if you've got one, especially on this, it was easy. And I'm happy with the figures. Like, that is some good figures from what the book says. So yeah, hopefully that leads us on to good things. So I think next video, as much as I just want to sit here and listen to it run, definitely needs to be some more stripping down. So I've got a feeling the next thing I'm going to do is probably remove the wiring loom, try and get the frame off. I need to move the stand that way a bit more so I can support the engine by itself without the gearbox sort of attached, so I can lower it down, rear wheels touching the floor. That will then give me a better place to then remove the gearbox, as I know I have an oil leak from somewhere on the back of the gearbox or the engine. So yeah, we need to establish where that oil leak's coming from. We need to take the engine apart. We need to take the injectors out, fuel rail out. There's loads of stuff we need to do to this bike. And I'd imagine the majority of it, such as the engine, is a lot of cleaning. I've definitely taken the valve cover off and everything. We're doing oil change on it. But yeah, so join me next time when I figured out what I'm actually going to do next. And I think that is taking the frame off, even though I don't really want to. I want to just keep listening to it run. Yeah, so thank you for watching. If I have helped in any kind of way whatsoever, then please do subscribe. If you're interested in how this build's going to go, subscribe. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.